So this is kind of what I'm seeing right now as my composition. So what we have here is we got some pretty deep shadows right there. We got some really blown out highlights right there. What we want to do is we want to use Flash to kind of fix those issues. So what we're going to do is we're going to expose for the window by going to our shutter speed and changing it to, let's say our max shutter speed is 1/160th. That should be fine enough for the windows. They're still a little bit blown out. In that case, you can adjust your ISO to compensate for that, but I don't think this Windows is that interesting in the way that we need to pull it. So we're gonna go with 1/160th of a second at f7.1 ISO 500. And if you want to see my settings, I'm using auto white balance, and I'm using AF single, and then I'm not using the timer or anything like that. So let's go ahead and take the shot as it is right now. So as you can see, it's just too dark. We need to add that flash in there. So I have a flash right here. It's just the Godox AD200. It's actually the Flashpoint branded version of it, but it's pretty much the same thing. The only difference being the warranty, I think. So let's go ahead and put that right over here. Excuse the mess. But let's put that right about here. Like, trying to put it behind the camera, but there's a little bit of a chair in the way. So this is kind of like what I do first. I always do the behind the camera to kind of gauge what the flash power should be. And I'm pointing it pretty much just behind. No matter what, even if there's no wall to bounce off of, I'll still point it behind there. I'll never point it directly into the ceiling. I'll never point it directly into the room because it's just not going to work the way I want it to. So let's go ahead and turn on the, what do you call it? Little transmitter here. So we're at 1/1. We'll start there. Make sure that's turned on. Okay, cool. Let's go back over here. Go over to the what you call it, the iPad, and we're gonna go ahead and press the shutter button. The white balance changed a little bit. Okay, there we go. That's looking pretty good for a base. Most people will stop there and say that's looking pretty good, but we still have issues. This is too hot right here. We're not gonna get any color out of that if we switch the blend mode of our ambient layer to luminosity. So let's go ahead and reposition the flash. So we're basically compositing to get a well-lit, well-colored shot. So let's go ahead and put this about right here. So if I was looking at it from like this perspective, this flash right here is bouncing right into that ceiling. Maybe a little bit more into the cabinets, but that's not going to be an issue since we're using such a high ISO. And our camera's over there. And so let's look at it from the camera's perspective. So if I take a look at it this way, yeah, that's looking better. If we take a look at it from the camera's perspective, let's take a look back. And of course you can't really see it, but it's right there. It's just right there. So let's go ahead and take the flash shot. Okay, that's loading. As you can see, it's right there, and it's looking pretty good. My dog's in the frame, though. But that should be fine, since it's just a demo. Let's see. So what I usually do is I cover up the side of the screen that my flash is on, just so I can get a better idea of what is actually being used in the composite. So this all is being used with our, what is it? Our behind the camera flash. We didn't have this little, what is it? This flash reflection. So we can just change the blend mode of that base layer to darken and just brush that out. So Let's go ahead and move the flash over to the other side. So we're doing it kind of like in a diagonal form, based on the room's perspective, but not from the camera's perspective. From the camera, it's like we're doing 50-50 splits. So if I can explain that really well, let's take a look at this. So we are right smack dab in that first left side, what do you call it, section. So if I went and cut this image in half, we are right smack dab in the middle of that. So we're going to do the same thing on the right side, and we're going to get a really good blend when we go ahead and pop it into Photoshop. So this is where the flash is. Let me get a better exposure on this. So this is where the flash is, and based on the camera, it's right about there. So let's go ahead, and I placed this actually really poorly. Let me actually put this right here, because I may want to use the light that's coming down here onto these chairs. And I don't want anything blocking or overlapping on these chairs. So let's go ahead and take that picture right now. And we're gonna go ahead and go back and press that. And that's looking really good. And again, we can fix this because we took that base exposure with the flash, and that's giving me really nice shadows overall. I really like what it's doing over here. I love that the chairs are all backlit in a way. So that's looking really good. We still have one more area to light, and that's this, what do you call it? Office area. So we got to get the office. That's pretty simple. We're just gonna place the flash in the office, and we're most likely gonna have to lower the power since it is a smaller area. So I'm gonna go with about right there, and we're gonna change the flash power to maybe half of that. So I think that's pretty good. So let's go ahead and go back over to the iPad. And I usually don't use the iPad. I just have a Yongnuo trigger just in my pocket that I'll use. But for demonstration purposes, I don't think the Yongnuo is gonna be that useful. So that looks really good. Can't talk. It looks blown out on the camera, but when I look at it in real life, it's actually really well exposed. So let's go ahead and get out of that. And while that flash is hidden, I'm gonna take that ambient exposure. Whew, that's too bright. So that looks pretty good, maybe a little bit too hot. And then there we go. Let's take that. Beautiful. And then I will actually go with a window pull. This window is exposed really well. This one's not. So I'm gonna bring down the ISO to 200. No, that's not working for me. 160 or 125 actually. Actually, both are fine. 160 is giving me that detail that I need in the sky, just so the transition areas between sky and the what is that house, just a little bit more detailed. So I'm going to take the flash and I'm going to put it behind the camera, and I should theoretically get a really good window pull. Now, we're going to have to do a little bit of adjusting. We can't just... let me get this. Oh, I almost hit the tripod. Okay, so we're going to need to adjust this to point right at the window. Just like so. We actually might get an issue here. Let me go with 1/1 full power, and let me see how that works. So we're at ISO 160, and I think that should be fine. Yeah, that worked out really well. So that should be fine. There's no dark overlap around the frame, but if there ever was, you can go ahead and just reposition the flash. And like, let's say I want to do it like head on. Just reposition the flash, and then you can layer 2 window pulls or even more window pulls in Photoshop using light and blend mode, and just kind of brush out the kind of like the issue areas. Like, see that area where the shadow was is completely gone. So we can just basically just put it into light and blend mode, and then it'll layer the 2 so it'll be perfectly flat, and then we can group it and then put it into dark and blend mode. That's what I love about Photoshop. It's so damn customizable, and just it's so useful once you really learn it. So I'm going to go ahead and call this video done, and we're gonna make a video on that blending process, but I'm gonna start with this and see how it looks. So that's pretty cool. If you guys have any comments, questions, concerns on what I did and what I'm using as like my equipment or anything like that, just go ahead and leave it in the comment section below, and I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. That's pretty much it. So take care, guys.